What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis, including your money, investing, the stock market, the next stimulus package update. And right now, there's a lot going on here. This is going to be a very big week here as President Biden actually they just had a ceremony here announcing the gun legislation that was just passed and was actually interrupted by a previous victim's father. I'll let you see the footage here from a past shooting here. And even President Biden has some mixed emotions here as, you know, gun safety right now is one of the major issues on the minds of Americans right now, along with women's choice and abortion rights. Another one really on the minds of a lot of Americans right now. You put those two issues together, along with inflation and cost of living. That's pretty much, along with the war in Russia, that's pretty much America as a whole right now of what's going on here. Cost of living out of control right now, and that's the heartbeat of America right now. It's crazy right now, and we've got all these shootings going on. We have women's choice that was basically taken back 50 or 100 years ago, and a lot of women feel that their rights have just been taken away, and the government now controls them. And yeah, I mean, so President Biden just made a speech here today as they, have signed into law the first major gun safety legislation in many, many years. But even President Biden said, we were able to do this because, we barely got enough Republican votes in the Senate to pass this. But even President Biden said this was all we were able to pass for now. But since then, we've had even more shooting. Shootings literally happen on a daily basis here in the United States. I believe we said on average 128 people die per day from regular shootings, and just single shootings happening every single day here in the country. And mass shootings, we have more mass shootings on a daily basis than there are days in the year. Mass shootings with four or more people. So President Biden had this here to say today.
All weapons need to be banned. They were banned. I led the fight in 1994. Then, under pressure from the NRA and the gun manufacturers and others, that ban was lifted in 2004. I'm determined to ban these weapons again and high-capacity magazines that hold 30 rounds and that let mass shooters fire hundreds of bullets in a matter of minutes.
Yeah, so you can see here President Biden, happy that they got something done, but not so happy. Once more, President Biden determined, quote, to renew the assault weapons ban. That's a term that different people, determine to be different types. And that, quote, assault weapons used to be banned until, he said, 2004, and that was overturned then. And the NRA had a lot to do with that. He said, they were banned. I led that fight in 1994. And then, under the pressure from the NRA and gun manufacturers, that ban was lifted in 2004. In that 10 years that it was law, mass shootings went down. I'm determined to ban these weapons again and high capacity magazines. I'm not going to stop until we do it, the president added. Biden also called for safe storage laws that would make an individual liable for not locking up their guns if that weapon was used in a crime, which to me sounds totally reasonable. You let me know your thoughts here in the comments. So if the weapon was, stolen or used by, I think it would be for somebody, if, somebody else used your weapon, or if you used the weapon, I have to be how it was passed. But if the weapon was used in a crime and was not locked up, somebody got a hold of your weapon. If a child got a hold of a weapon, underage, or anybody else got a hold of your weapon, and you didn't lock it up, you'd be used, it would be considered a crime. I mean, seems totally reasonable to me. I mean, how many times have we seen where, it was just, the gun was found just in the house, and somebody gets a hold of it. Oh, and they say, oh, wasn't my fault, you know. And I mean, here in Ohio, they just passed a law where I'll show you the headline here, so you believe it, right? Yeah, in Ohio, teachers can now be armed in schools, inside schools, with just 24 hours of training. Very controversial here. So imagine a teacher inside a kindergarten or grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, grade 5, or grade 10. Imagine a teenager there goes inside the purse of a woman who has a firearm, and grabs the gun, or inside the desk of a you know of a teacher. And they're supposed to have it on them, but let's be realistic. We know that at all times, all teachers are not going to always have it on them 100% of the time. For thousands and thousands of teachers, it's just not always going to happen. you know um, the state, Ohio, also now allows people 21 and older to carry a concealed firearm without a permit or any training at all. You don't even need a permit. And this actually follows a lot of other states that don't even need a permit either for concealed carry. You can just walk around with a gun without even needing any permit or any training at all. So you need a permit and a training to drive a vehicle, and you need insurance. You need a license to drive any car or to rent a car. In fact, to rent a car, you need to be 25 years of age. Car companies will not rent you a car unless you're 25 years of age. But to buy a gun, you can be 18, and yeah, I can't make this stuff up, guys. You can walk around with a concealed weapon without even a permit. I just read you the headline. In a lot of different states, some states, results vary. Some different laws there. And in Ohio, you can be a teacher with a gun, a man or a woman. And let's be realistic. We all know that there's going to be times they don't have the gun on them personally. We know there's going to be times where the gun could be in their purse, the gun could be in the drawer. I mean, we just know it's going to happen. Let's be realistic, guys. We know there's going to be times that this happens. It's just realistic. I mean, it's a sad thing. I fear the headlines in the future. I would much rather see police officers at the door. I've been an advocate saying, let's have 2 or more police officers at every single school. Let's have Congress pass funding and across the nation and say every school gets at least 2 police officers for every single school. Larger schools may need more. Wouldn't you rather have a trained police officer at every single school, 20, not 24 hours a day, but when school's in session? I mean, that just seems like a much better solution. 2 police officers there at the doors when school's in session than teachers. Why are teachers are not there to defend our schools? Teachers are there to teach. I mean, we're already asking enough of our teachers, don't you think? Now they're gonna defend our schools? Like that is we're already asking enough of our teachers. If you're a teacher, please let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I just think that that's not the job of our teachers, and God bless our teachers. Um, and I also think that we need locking doors in all of our schools because these shooters should not be able to just walk into our schools. Every school should have locking doors automatically, lock automatically. More and more schools need. Every school needs to have this. Every school needs to have police officers there, so that we can cut down on these incidences. Oh, and by the way, here's um, the father of the Parkland shooting victim interrupts Biden's speech at the White House while he was speaking here today. Here's what he had to say um, Well, here's the snippet, and then I'll show you another thing he had to say here earlier today on CNN.
Today's many things is proof that despite the naysayers, we can make meaningful progress on dealing with gun violence. Because make no mistake, sit down, you'll hear what I have to say. If you think you.
I'm trying to tell you this for years.
We have one. Let me finish my comment. Let him talk. Let him talk. No one, okay? Because make no mistake about it, this legislation is real progress, but more has to be done.
Yeah, so the president interrupted there. Yeah, I don't even know, at first, he was, the father was, kind of back there. I think the president, he gets interrupted who knows how often, but I think I think he handled it decently. I don't think that he was being disrespectful or anything because, the president, he kind of, they get interrupted occasionally. I think that's what they're supposed to do. Kind of continue on, not really let a heckler. Not that the guy's a heckler, right? But generally, when you're speaking and just some random person just starts kind of yelling at you from a crowd, you don't know who it is, and you're basically generally you're just supposed to basically say, "Hey, let me speak, let me speak." You generally don't, try to look at who's in the crowd and then try to identify them and then right. So, but then if you kind of seen what the president did, I think he may have uh, identified him and seen who it was. He paused there for a second and then said, "Let him speak." So he may have identified him there. You can let me know your thoughts here in the comments. But you can see here he was actually his. I think it was his son was actually a victim from 2018. So not even this recent um, shootings here in 2022. And nothing passed since 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, and now finally in 2022, something's passed. But even the father has said it hasn't been. It's not enough, not enough. He actually went on TV here earlier today before that happened, and here's what the father had to say.
Tell us what you think of this bill and what you plan to tell President Biden if you get the chance.
Well, it's been a while that I've been calling out that using the word celebration, getting together, it's like we're going to a party, to a wedding today. We're all receiving invitations, and meanwhile, you can see these mothers in Uvalde that just saw how their kids were massacred inside the school. So, for me, it's not only not enough what we're passing, and very well what I've been preaching for, and even the president asked for more, and it's not happening. So I really wish there was more in this package of bills, and I will do whatever I can to get more in this package of bills. This is not the beginning or the end. There's a lot of people saying this is the beginning, this is the end. No, this is part of a process. And there was no reason for this event to be called as it's called right now. Like, we are celebrating and getting together in the White House. There's no space for that word.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense, Manny.
Yeah, so let me know your thoughts. There's an actual father of a victim who no longer has his son, and yeah, imagine if it happened to you. And this type of thing is happening every single day in our country. Yeah, and going forward, it's just we're the only country in the world that has it happen at this rate, and it's happening every day. So how do we curb it? How do we bring it down a little bit? How do we control it a little bit? I seen a comment earlier saying, well, cars kill people every day. Should we ban cars? And what's interesting about that comment is if you actually think about that comment, in a way, we have made cars a lot safer. We have safety belts, we have airbags, we have crash tests where cars are actually made safer just by the crashes, the way they make cars. Okay, we have multiple airbags now, and some people will complain about airbags and this, that, and the other thing. But the reality of it is airbags alone save people. And yeah, occasionally you'll get an airbag that might, have a, the airbag might harm somebody, but airbags save a lot more people than they don't. Seatbelts save a lot more people than they don't. And crash tests save a lot more people than they don't. And when you look at all these safety features, like a lot of cars can actually brake themselves when they detect crashes now. Okay. A lot of cars now have uh, the mirrors can detect if someone's in your blind side now. And like literally, backup cameras, or your car can, stop itself when you're backing up if something's behind you, if there's a bike behind you, if there's a person behind you. So if you actually think about cars and all these safety items that are added, there's probably several that I'm not even thinking about just off the top of my head. All these things are being added to cars in the last several years, 10 years, 20. I mean, seatbelt. Back in the day, seatbelts, there was a lot of people that didn't want seatbelts to be passed. Seatbelts have saved probably millions of lives. There was, back in the day, there was a big fight over seatbelts if they should actually be passed into law. People didn't want to. They said it was against their rights to have to wear, to be forced to wear a seatbelt. Okay. So, certain things just come down to safety, right? So you just have to look at things as a realistic point of view and say, is this right? You have to look at each thing as a realist. That's what I consider myself. Is this good? Is this going to save lives? Do we want this? That's why I don't consider myself a Democrat or Republican, and just, don't, at least how I do, don't just be blind to a matter. Just look at it from a reasonable point of view and say, do we need seatbelts? I mean, it's a no-brainer, right? Uh, things like that. Is this bad for you? Is this good for you? Whatever the reasoning is. And if you look at cars, they've made them safer and safer and safer and safer. So yes, cars still kill people, but now if you get into an accident, they're way safer than they used to be. I mean, think about back in the day, there were no car seats for children. If you got in an accident, what would happen to the child? They would just literally fly forward, or maybe dad or mom would catch them with the arm. And the reality of it is, yeah, we made it, but think about how many children didn't. And then eventually they had very crude car seats, and now car seats are like mandatory by law. And the car seats have gotten safer and safer and safer. So, yeah, believe it or not, cars have gotten a lot safer. Things get safer throughout the years, and there's no reason that guns can't as well. Believe it or not, there's more guns than there is people in the United States. There's over 400 million guns in the United States. There's more. That's more guns than there is people. So that doesn't mean that they're all going to go away. I mean, it's not even realistic if you just think about it. There's only 330 million people in the United States, roughly. Um, but that doesn't mean that we can't make a little bit of adjustments and make it a safer place for you, me, and our children, and grandma and grandpa. So let me know your thoughts here in in the comments. But this is kind of everything going on here in our country. How do we make it a safer place, but yet also protect our constitutional rights? Same thing with seatbelts, same things with cars, same thing with flying on an airplane, right? I mean, imagine if we still had, constitutional rights, or think about if we still, like, the thing about the Constitution, you got to remember the Constitution was written like over 200 years ago. Imagine if we were still, airplanes didn't even, exist back then, but imagine if we were still like using safety laws from 200 years ago. Imagine if we were like, oh, well, we're just going to go with the airplane safety laws from 200 years ago. We're just still going to go with the gun laws from 200 years ago. We're still going to go with, school laws from 200 years ago. Like, everything has to evolve, right? Things are just different now. They didn't have the internet 200 years ago. They didn't have the problems that we have 200 years ago. Like, it's modern day. Like, everything has to evolve. Like, I get that the Constitution was written 200 years ago, but like everything is modern. Everything is different. Like, we have to, like, evolve. Like the Constitution that was written by our forefathers. Like I get it, right? But like a lot of it is relevant, but not relevant. Like I get that we still have the right to bear arms, and I don't think anybody's questioning that. But the question here is that how do we curb the mass shootings? How do we curb the school shootings? And that's why I said we need to have funding for schools. We need to have police officers there. Just like common sense stuff that should be no brainer stuff. Do we need to have magazines with 100 rounds in them? Like my thoughts is have the shooting ranges have that. So like, do people at home need that? You don't really need that. I mean, if you're going out hunting, do you need 100 rounds per magazine? No, you don't need that for hunting. I mean, if you need 100 rounds to shoot a deer, you're like probably the worst shot ever, right? You don't really need that for hunting. And if you need that at the shooting range can provide you with that. You know, so I mean, let me know your thoughts here. I've seen so many comments from on our channel from military members, current military members and ex-military members that have said from themselves on our channel here. You could maybe even comment here if you're in the military or ex-military. People saying that they don't think that assault rifles, and I get that different people have different opinions on what an assault rifle is. Um, that they don't think that they deserve to be in the hands of just average everyday Joes and moms and pops and average everyday people. That they weren't really designed to be out, in the hands of millions and millions of people because they're being misused. They're being misused. And we've had one of the founders of the assault rifles say that this is not how they were designed to be used. They were designed for the battlefield, and this is not what they were intended for use. But I get that everybody has a different opinion, but I think that we all kind of, well, most of us agree that there is a misuse here. The question is, how do we combat it? And with mental health, when we talk about mental health, I personally think, I think a lot of us think, mental health and the gun problem are the same issue. A lot of it's the same issue. But how do we combat it? How do we combat it together? Because you can't say, oh, it's mental health and not a gun issue because they're interlinked. They're interlinked, right? And the problem is that some of these people that go out and just shoot people don't have mental health issues. They're just pissed off for one reason or another. Some of them are just pissed off. They don't necessarily have mental health issues. Some of them do. Some of them are just PO'd for whatever reason. Not every single person that goes out there, has a mental health issue. Some of them just are enraged because of whatever reason. But you can't just say, "Oh, it's a mental health issue," and then never pass anything and never, no solution is done like we've seen for the last 20 years, right? You can't just say, "Oh, not our problem, mental health problem," and the problem just continues. Let me know your thoughts. This is a major issue. If it's not done now, we're going to go another 20 years and this is going to continue. So we've had a bill passed. We're going to see how much it saves the day. You let me know your thoughts, how much you think it's going to save the day, because a lot of people think it's going to save the day very little. It's going to do a little bit. I think a lot more needs to be done, like school safety needs to be done, more background checks, maybe waiting periods, um, or maybe more waiting periods on the background checks. You let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I'll keep you up to date here with everything going on in our country. It's a big time for our country. We have elections coming up, inflation. It's crazy. Make sure to subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can click here to see my newest video next. And if you have children, you might be getting a child tax credit that you didn't know about, or you might be entitled to one. Click here to see that video. If you have anybody that has children, click here to see that video, or any friends or family. Click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.